The transport vessel descended through the pearl-white clouds of Zelthera Prime, its hull gleaming against the planet's 3 golden suns. Marcus Kane pressed his face to the viewport, watching the crystalline cities rise from emerald plains, like frozen music. Everything here seemed to pulse with an otherworldly beauty that made his chest tighten with anticipation. Marcus adjusted his diplomatic uniform, running fingers through his dark hair. At 32, he had negotiated treaties across dozens of worlds, but none quite like this one. The Zeltharians were known throughout the galaxy for their absolute honesty. Their minds simply couldn't process deception, making them both incredibly trustworthy and remarkably vulnerable. The spaceport buzzed with activity as Marcus disembarked. Zeltharians moved with fluid grace, their translucent skin shifting between soft blues and greens like living opal. They wore simple robes that seemed to flow like liquid starlight. Several turned to stare at him with large, luminous eyes filled with innocent curiosity. "Welcome, honored human," spoke a melodic voice behind him. Marcus turned to see a female Zeltharian approaching. Her crystalline blue skin caught the light, creating rainbow patterns across her delicate features. Silver hair cascaded past her shoulders like spun moonbeams. "I am Nissa, of the Third Circle, appointed as your cultural liaison." Marcus felt something unexpected flutter in his chest as their eyes met. Her gaze held an intelligence that seemed to see straight through him, yet without judgment or suspicion. "Marcus Kane, Earth Diplomatic Corps," he replied, extending his hand. "The pleasure is entirely mine." When their fingers touched, Nissa's skin shimmered with surprise. "Your touch carries strange warmth," she observed with scientific curiosity. "Our texts speak of human physiology, but experiencing it is quite different." "Everything about humans is different," Marcus said with a smile that had charmed ambassadors across 3 sectors. "We're full of contradictions and complexities that even we don't always understand." Nissa tilted her head, considering this. "How fascinating. Our people value clarity above all else. We speak only truth, feel only what is real and immediate. The concept of internal conflict is foreign to us." As they walked through the crystal corridors of the diplomatic center, Marcus found himself genuinely intrigued by her innocence. The Zeltharians they passed moved with serene purpose, their faces open and unguarded. There was no suspicion, no hidden agendas, no careful masks worn to protect vulnerable hearts. "Tell me," Nissa said as they entered his assigned quarters, "what is it like to experience emotions that contradict each other? Our scholars theorize about such things, but we cannot truly comprehend them."
Oh.
Marcus set down his travel case and turned to face her fully. The late afternoon light streaming through the transparent walls painted her skin in shades of gold and amber. "Imagine," he began, his voice dropping to an intimate tone, "feeling drawn to something you know might hurt you, or loving someone, while simultaneously fearing they might leave you." Nissa's eyes widened, her skin flickering between blue and a warmer violet. "That sounds ... terrifying, yet you speak of it as though it holds beauty." "The most beautiful things often do," Marcus replied, stepping closer. "Fear makes the joy more precious. Uncertainty makes connection more meaningful. Without the possibility of loss, can love truly exist?" Something shifted in Nissa's expression, awakening of curiosity that went beyond mere scientific interest. Her skin's color deepened, and Marcus noticed her breathing had quickened slightly. The clinical distance she had maintained was dissolving into something more personal, more vulnerable. "I find myself disturbed by these concepts," she admitted, her voice softer now, "yet I cannot stop thinking about them." "Is this what humans call fascination?" Marcus smiled, recognizing the signs of emotional awakening he had witnessed on other worlds. But with Nissa, it felt different, more intimate, more dangerous to his own carefully guarded heart. "Among other things," he replied, allowing his fingers to brush against hers once more. The simple contact sent sparks of connection between them that neither could deny. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus's arrival, and the sterile perfection of Zeltharian society had begun to show the first cracks of change. In the crystalline halls of the Science Academy, Nissa found herself distracted from her research. her thoughts constantly drifting to the enigmatic human who had turned her ordered world upside down. The cellular samples from the Andorian Nebula show remarkable adaptability, her research partner Kale observed, his green-tinted skin flickering with confusion as he studied her distracted expression. "Nisa, your attention seems elsewhere today. This is most unusual for you." She looked up from the quantum microscope, realizing she had been staring at the same molecular structure for nearly an hour without truly seeing it. "Forgive me, Kale. I find my thoughts occupied with theoretical concepts." "Ah, the human concepts," Kale said, with the straightforward honesty typical of their people. "Many speak of these strange ideas he shares: love, jealousy, passion, words that translate poorly into our understanding." Heat bloomed across Nissa's skin, shifting her coloring to deeper blues and purples. These new sensations had been building within her, creating a constant state of inner turbulence that was both thrilling and terrifying. He has offered to explain them further tonight, for scientific purposes, naturally. Kale's expression showed mild concern. "Be cautious, Nisa. The Council of Elders grows troubled by the changes they observe in those who spend time with the human. Some speak of emotions that feel both pleasurable and painful simultaneously. Such contradictions disturb our peace." That evening, Marcus waited in the moonlit gardens behind the diplomatic quarters. The 3 moons of Zelthera cast everything in silver light, making the luminescent flowers glow like captured stars. When Nissa arrived, her skin was already shifting through colors he had learned to associate with excitement and nervousness. "You came," he said softly, rising from the crystal bench where he had been sitting. "I told myself it was for research," Nissa replied, moving closer until only inches separated them. "But I find myself questioning that motivation. Is this what you call self-deception?" Marcus reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone, but it warmed under his touch. Maybe you're learning that the heart doesn't always follow logic." "Heart," she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "In your language, this word means both the organ that circulates blood and the center of emotion. How do humans live?" With such beautiful confusion, instead of answering with words, Marcus leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. The kiss was gentle at first, a question rather than a demand. Nisa's entire body seemed to shimmer with shock and wonder, her skin cycling through colors he had never seen before. Deep crimsons and warm golds that spoke of awakening passion. When they broke apart, Nisa's breathing was unsteady. "I feel changed," she whispered, her hands resting against his chest. "As though something has awakened within me that was always there, waiting." "That's exactly what it is," Marcus replied, his own heart racing in ways that surprised him. He had seduced beings across the galaxy, but with Nissa, it felt different. More real. More dangerous to his own emotional walls. They spent hours in that moonlit garden, Marcus teaching her about the complexity of human emotions through touch and whispered words. He showed her how desire could build slowly, how anticipation could be almost unbearably sweet. Nissa learned quickly, her scientific mind cataloging each new sensation while her newly awakened heart reveled in the discoveries. "Is it always like this between humans?" she asked, as they sat entwined on the soft grass, her head resting on his shoulder. "No," Marcus admitted, surprised by his own honesty. "Usually it's more complicated. There's doubt, fear, the possibility that feelings aren't returned. But with you," he trailed off, realizing he was venturing into territory he hadn't intended to explore. "With me?" Nissa prompted, turning to look at him with those luminous eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. "With you it feels pure," he finished, the words escaping before he could stop them. "Like discovering something I didn't know I was searching for." Nissa's skin glowed with soft pink hues, and Marcus realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. A Zeltharian experiencing what humans would call love? The thought should have thrilled him as evidence of his success in his mission. But instead, it filled him with an unexpected tenderness that had nothing to do with manipulation and everything to do with genuine affection. Word of the strange new emotions spread through Zeltharian society like ripples in a crystal pond. In the weeks following Marcus and Nisa's first intimate encounter, profound changes began manifesting throughout their civilization. Zeltharians, who had lived for centuries in serene contentment, now found themselves experiencing sensations their language couldn't adequately describe. Vex, a young artist whose skin typically maintained a steady pale green, discovered his coloring, shifting wildly whenever he saw his longtime friend Zara speaking with other males. The sensation burned in his chest like liquid fire, and when he sought Marcus's counsel, the human had smiled knowingly. Jealousy, Marcus had explained during one of his increasingly popular evening gatherings. The fear of losing something precious to you, mixed with anger at the possibility of replacement. But why would I fear losing Zara? Vex asked, his skin flickering between green and amber. She has always been my companion in artistic pursuits. Perhaps, Marcus suggested with carefully calculated insight, because she means more to you than mere friendship. Perhaps you've discovered what humans call romantic love. The concept had spread like wildfire. Suddenly, Zeltharians throughout the Crystal Cities were questioning relationships they had taken for granted, discovering depths of feeling they never knew existed. The Council of Elders watched with growing alarm as their perfectly ordered society transformed into something unpredictable and passionate. Meanwhile, Marcus and Nisa's relationship had deepened into something that consumed both of them. Their meetings in the moonlit gardens had become nightly rituals, each encounter teaching Nisa new aspects of desire and intimacy. Marcus found himself genuinely captivated by her innocence and the way she approached each new emotional discovery. With scientific fascination mixed with breathless wonder, "Show me more," Nisa whispered one evening, as they lay together on silk cushions Marcus had acquired from the market. The three moons hung full above them, casting everything in ethereal silver light. Her skin glowed with warm golden hues. Colors Marcus had learned indicated deep contentment and arousal. Marcus traced patterns on her luminescent skin, marveling at how she responded to his touch. "What would you like to learn tonight?" She replied, her voice carrying a hunger that would have been impossible for a Zeltharian to express just months earlier. "I want to understand why my skin changes colors when you look at me a certain way. I want to know why my heart races when you speak my name. I want to comprehend this ache that feels both wonderful and terrible." Marcus leaned down to kiss the curve of her neck, tasting the subtle sweetness of her alien skin. "That ache," he murmured against her throat, "is longing. The space between wanting and having, between dreaming and reality." Nisa arched beneath him, her skin cycling through colors that painted her like a living aurora. "And this feeling like I might shatter from too much sensation?" "Passion," Marcus replied, his own desire building as he watched her discover the depths of her sensuality. It's the moment when emotion becomes so intense it transcends thought. Their lovemaking that night was a revelation for both of them. Experienced the full awakening of desires she never knew existed. While Marcus found himself moved by emotions he had thought buried beneath years of calculated manipulation, when she cried out in ecstasy, her skin blazing with colors that had no names, Marcus realized he was witnessing something unprecedented. The birth of passion in an entire species. But their private awakening was having public consequences. Throughout Zelthara Prime, relationships were transforming. Zeltharians who had maintained platonic partnerships for centuries were discovering romantic attraction. Others found themselves torn between multiple desires, learning about the painful beauty of unrequited love. Tira, a government administrator, had fallen desperately in love with Jen, a crystal architect who remained obliviously focused on their shared municipal projects. The constant ache of wanting someone who couldn't comprehend her feelings was teaching Tira about the exquisite torture of one-sided devotion. "It hurts," she confessed to Marcus during one of his consultation sessions. "Yet I cannot stop." "Is this normal for your species?" "Fortunately, yes," Marcus replied with genuine sympathy. "Love isn't always returned. Sometimes we desire those who cannot or will not desire us back. It's one of the cruelest lessons of sentient existence." These conversations were becoming more frequent as Zeltharians grappled with emotions their minds weren't evolved to process. The Council of Elders finally demanded a meeting with Marcus, their crystalline faces showing the first signs of stress and uncertainty their people had experienced in millennia. "And what have you done to us?" Elder Prism asked, his ancient voice, carrying notes of both fascination and fear. "Our people are transforming in ways that challenge everything we believed about ourselves." Marcus stood before the 7-member council in their Hall of Living Crystal, feeling the weight of responsibility and something else. Guilt. I've simply shown you possibilities that already existed within you. The capacity for complex emotion was always there, dormant but present. But at what cost? Elder Flux demanded, her skin shifting through agitated patterns of silver and black. Our society functioned on truth and simplicity. Now there is chaos, confusion, hearts breaking for reasons we barely understand. Marcus looked out at the city beyond the council chamber, where Zeltharians moved through the streets with new purposes, new desires, new pains. He thought of Nissa, waiting for him in their secret garden, and realized that somewhere along the way, his mission had become something far more personal and dangerous than he had ever intended. The revelation came on a night when the 3 moons aligned in perfect symmetry, casting the crystal gardens in an otherworldly glow. Nissa had arrived at their usual meeting place, with excitement radiating from her skin in warm golden waves. Eager to share news of her research breakthrough, instead, she found Marcus standing rigid beside their favorite bench, his face etched with an expression she had never seen before. "Marcus." She approached cautiously, her skin shifting to concerned. "Blue tones. You seem different tonight." Marcus turned to face her, and Nissa saw something in his eyes that made her newly awakened heart stutter. Guilt, the emotion she had learned about in their intimate conversations but never expected to see directed at her. "Nissa, I need to tell you something," he began, his voice strained, "something I should have shared long ago." Before she could respond, footsteps crunched on the crystal pathway behind them. Elder Prism emerged from the shadows, accompanied by 2 other council members and someone Nissa didn't recognize, a human woman with sharp features and cold eyes. "Agent Kane," the woman spoke with crisp authority, "your mission parameters have changed. The council has discovered your true purpose here." Nissa's skin flickered between colors so rapidly it was almost painful to watch. Mission? Agent? Looked between Marcus and the newcomers, her scientific mind struggling to process information that contradicted everything she believed. "I don't understand." Marcus's shoulders sagged, as if a great weight had settled on them. "Nissa, this is Director Hayes from Earth Intelligence. I'm not a diplomat. I never was." "Then what are you?" Nissa whispered, though part of her already suspected the devastating answer. "A specialist in cultural manipulation," Marcus admitted, each word seeming to cause him physical pain. "My job was to introduce emotional complexity into Zeltharian society, to make your people more manageable for future negotiations." The crystal garden fell silent except for the gentle chiming of wind through the luminescent leaves. Nissa stood frozen, her skin cycling through colors that spoke of shock, betrayal, and a pain so profound it seemed to radiate from her very core. "Everything?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Our conversations, your teachings about love. Our intimate moments, all of it was calculated manipulation." Marcus stepped toward her, but she recoiled as if his touch would burn her. "No, Nissa, that's not it. Started that way, but it became real. What I feel for you is real." "How? Would I know?" Nissa's skin blazed with angry reds and deep purples. "You've taught me about deception, Marcus. You've shown me that beings can speak love while harboring lies. Congratulations, I'm learning that lesson firsthand."
"Okay."
Elder Prism's expression showed deep sadness mixed with resignation. "We discovered communications in your quarters, Agent Kane. Reports detailing our psychological vulnerabilities. Plans for economic exploitation once emotional manipulation was established. You have succeeded beyond your mission parameters." Director Hayes nodded with cold satisfaction. "The Zeltharian Accords will be much easier to negotiate now that their society has been destabilized. Emotional beings make poor bargainers." "Wasn't supposed to happen," Marcus protested, his careful facade cracking completely. "The mission was limited cultural introduction. not societal destabilization, and certainly not. He looked at Nissa with desperate eyes. Not falling in love myself, Nissa laughed. But it was a sound filled with bitter learning. Another word with multiple meanings. It's the love you claim to feel, and the love you taught me to experience. Are either of them real, Marcus? Or are they both just different forms of beautiful deception? Throughout the city beyond the gardens, the effects of Marcus's influence continued to ripple outward. Zeltharians who had discovered passion were now learning about heartbreak. Vex had finally confessed his feelings to Zara, only to discover she had developed feelings for someone else. Tira's unrequited love for Jen had driven her to make choices that compromised her work and her friendships. The perfect harmony of Zeltharian society was fragmenting into something messier, more complex, more painfully alive. Families were divided between those embracing the new emotions and those demanding a return to their previous state of serene simplicity. The Council of Elders faced their first major crisis in centuries as their people struggled with concepts like romantic rivalry, sexual jealousy, and the devastating power of broken hearts. "Look what you've accomplished," Director Hayes said with professional appreciation. An entire civilization transformed from naive pacifists into emotionally volatile beings. The psychological profiles suggest they'll be malleable for decades. As they struggle to understand their own feelings, "Stop," Marcus said firmly, finally finding his voice. "This has gone too far. These people trusted me. They opened their hearts and minds to experiences that were foreign to them. I won't be part of exploiting that trust further." "You already have been, Agent Kane," Director Hayes replied coolly. "The mission is complete. Your emotional attachment to the subject is noted, but irrelevant to operational success." Nissa watched this exchange with newly educated eyes. Seeing the casual way humans discussed the destruction of her people's innocence, the Marcus she had loved, or thought she loved, was defending them now. But it was too late. The damage was done to her society and to her heart. "I need to understand something," Nissa said, her voice steady despite the chaos of colors playing across her skin. "The love you claim to feel for me, when did it begin? Before you knew me, or after you had already begun your deception?" Marcus met her gaze, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. "After, it was never supposed to happen, Nissa. But somewhere between teaching you about desire and watching you discover joy, I fell in love with who you are. The person you became through learning about emotions, that person captured my heart completely." "Then I am in love with a lie," Nissa replied quietly, "and you are in love with your own creation. We have both learned about betrayal tonight. Marcus Kane. The question now is what we do with this knowledge." 3 months after the revelation in the Crystal Gardens, Zelthera Prime had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. The planet's pristine cities now buzzed with the beautiful chaos of a civilization learning to feel. Galleries displayed works pulsing with emotional intensity. Music carried melodies of longing and joy, and the very architecture seemed to respond to its inhabitants' newfound capacity for passion. Marcus sat in his quarters, no longer the diplomatic suite, but a sparse detention cell, awaiting transport back to Earth. Director Hayes had recalled him after his refusal to participate in further exploitation of the Zeltharians. Through his small window, he could see the city's transformation and the evidence of both the wonder and pain his mission had unleashed. The door chimed softly, and Marcus looked up to see Nissa entering. She had changed dramatically since their last meeting. Her skin now held a depth of color that spoke of someone who had journeyed through the depths of emotion and emerged stronger. The innocent scientist was gone, replaced by someone who understood the full spectrum of feeling, from ecstasy to anguish and everything between. "I didn't expect you to come," Marcus said quietly, rising from his simple bed. "Neither did I," Nissa replied, her skin shifting through subtle blues and greens that he had learned indicated complex, conflicted emotions. "But I realized there are things that need to be said." They stood facing each other across the small room, and Marcus was struck by how different this felt from their passionate encounters in the moonlit gardens. There was a maturity to Nissa now, a depth that came from experiencing betrayal and choosing how to respond to it. "How are your people adapting?" Marcus asked. "Painfully, beautifully, chaotically." Nisa moved to the window, gazing out at the city where her transformed civilization was learning to live with hearts that could break. Elder Prism describes it as growing pains for an entire species. "We're discovering that love and pain are often indistinguishable, that joy means more. When you've experienced sorrow—" "I'm sorry," Marcus said, and he meant it more than any words he had ever spoken. "I'm sorry for the deception, for the manipulation, for turning your trust into a weapon against your people's innocence." Nissa turned to face him, and her expression was complicated, not the simple forgiveness he might have hoped for, but something more complex and honest. "I've been thinking about forgiveness, another concept I never needed before meeting you. I've learned that forgiveness isn't about pretending the hurt didn't happen. It's about choosing not to let that hurt define everything that comes after." Marcus felt something stir in his chest, hope mixed with a love that had grown stronger. "Through loss, and have you chosen to forgive me?" "I've chosen to forgive the man who taught me about love," Nissa said carefully. "The agent who manipulated us, that's harder. But the Marcus who held me in the gardens, who showed me wonder and passion and the exquisite pain of connection, him I can forgive. Because even if it began as deception, what we shared became real." Marcus crossed the room slowly, stopping just close enough that he could see the subtle patterns of light playing across her skin. "It was real, Nissa. Whatever else was lies. My love for you became the most honest thing I've ever experienced." "I know," she replied softly. "I can see it in your eyes, in the way you carry yourself now. You've learned about love too, Marcus. You've discovered what it means to care more about someone else's well-being than your own mission, your own safety." "Then what happens now?" Marcus asked. "Director Hayes wants me back on Earth for debriefing and probably court-martial for refusing. Orders? Your people are dealing with the aftermath of emotional awakening. Where does that leave us?" Nissa's skin began to glow with warm, golden tones that Marcus had learned to associate with the most intimate moments between them. "I've been speaking with the Council of Elders. They've decided that if emotions are to be part of our future, we need guides who understand both their power and their dangers." "What are you saying?" "Stay," Nissa said simply.
"Not as agent."
"Kanor, as the man who deceived us, but as Marcus, the person who learned to love truly even in the midst of lies. Help us navigate this new world of feelings. Help us understand how to build relationships based on honest emotion rather than manipulation." Marcus stared at her, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. "The director won't allow it. Earth's intelligence doesn't abandon their assets. Earth intelligence can't reclaim someone who's been granted asylum by a sovereign world," Nissa replied with a smile that held new confidence. "The council has voted. If you choose to stay, you'll be under Zeltharian protection. But the choice is yours, Marcus. No more missions, no more deceptions, just the truth of what you want." Marcus looked into her luminous eyes and saw his future reflected there, not the calculated career he had planned, but something far more dangerous and beautiful.
Wow.
A life built on the genuine emotions she had taught him to value above strategic. "Advantage, I choose to stay," he said without hesitation. "I choose love over duty, truth over manipulation, and you over everything else Earth might offer." Nissa's skin blazed with colors that had no names in any language, and when she moved into his arms, Marcus felt the profound satisfaction of making the first completely honest choice of his adult life. Outside the window, the transformed city of Zelthara Prime sparkled in the light of 3 moons, its inhabitants learning day by day how to live with hearts that could hold both joy and sorrow, hope and fear, love and loss. It was messier than their previous existence, more complicated and painful, but it was also infinitely more alive. As Marcus held Nissa close, both of them understanding finally that love required truth to flourish, he realized that his mission had succeeded in ways he never intended. He had set out to manipulate an alien civilization and instead had discovered his own humanity. In teaching them about the complexity of emotion, he had learned the simple truth that love, real, honest, love was worth any sacrifice. The story of where aliens couldn't imagine love had become the story of where a human learned that love required more than imagination. It required courage, honesty, and the willingness to choose connection over control. And in that choice, both species had found something worth the pain of transformation.